The state of Kansas issues a health alert about rabies in response to two recently reported cases. The Department of Health and Environment and Department of Agriculture say that there have been at least two cases in the last 2 weeks, one in Jewell County and then another in Harvey County. Both involved unvaccinated outdoor cats that were exposed to other cats and humans. The state says there have been a total of 6 positive rabies cases in cats just this year.